Hey, good evening, everybody. I think I'm a few seconds early. Seems that my rear camera crapped out on me, and I'm using an old cell phone for that, and it appears that the battery in that cell phone is shot. So I'll have to get a different old cell phone for next week. Sorry about that. So how's everybody doing? Good to see you. Can everybody see me? I guess you probably can. I hate it when you have technical difficulties like that. So good to see y'all. Good to see y'all. We got 30-something of you here. And who do we got? We got Carnivore Life and Chaffee McGinnis. And Richard Lees. How you doing? Baddest Cats in the house. Good to see you. And we got 32 people and only about 4 or 5 of you in the chat. Well, we must have a lot of the strong, silent types. Sharon Pekarsky, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Andre from Montana, I guess. Good to see you, my friend. I had my thoughts all gathered up on how I was going to start this thing, and then I'm frantically running around in the office here trying to get that camera working again. And of course, on the scene for that camera is where I had the countdown timer, so I lost track of the countdown timer. So I've always said, guys, this is professional show business at its finest. And oh, Vadim is here. How you doing? And Dawn, hi from South Dakota. Paul Clark says, I rock, thank you. Newsflash, y'all, Mitch is the man. I hope so. Good to see you. Victory, how you doing? Waiting for some people to gather here. And I have my show notes on my cell phone over here. For my, I guess you could call it an opening monologue or my opening rant or whatever it is. The first thing, I wanted to talk about a few things I've noticed. Well, let me keep saying hi to people. People like to hear their names. TS from Utah, how you doing? Lorraine's Essentials from Alberta, Canada. Good to see you. Carlos is being a wise acre, as usual. Tony, that's back from the sky in case you didn't know. Just ignore everything he says. Tony Smith from Philly. I'm from Philly. I don't know if you knew that, Tony. Northeast Philly. Out near Oxford Circle. Born and raised there. Went to Northeast High School. Temple University. Yes, sir. Do I miss it? Not really. How's Philly these days? And Texan Carnivore, how you doing? God, what a shock, you're from Texas. Who'd have guessed? And who else we got? Cliff Medina. Cliff Medina is wearing his green in the chat, and that means that Cliff is one of the new supporters of my channel, who I appreciate very much. Thank you, sir. And Montana, where men are men, women are scarce and cheap. I like that. Is that Hilka Hivronen from Australia? Wow. God, that's something that never ceases to amaze me about these things is people clear on the other side of the world are just right here in the room with us. And I mean, if they were on video, they'd be right here sitting next to me. I remember the days when I was in the Army and I was stationed over in Turkey. This was back in the 60s. And we could arrange to call our parents, call home a couple times a year. And it was such a complicated deal that you had to schedule it way in advance. And you took all kinds of communications equipment, everything else that the Army had, just to say hi to your mom on the phone from Turkey. Now, we can have a video chat with somebody clear on the other side of the world, and we complain about the 100 millisecond delay. Margaret BN. Margaret, how you doing, sweetie? Margaret has been a real supporter of the channel and always shows up in the comments and everything. So glad I was able to tune in tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Southwest Philly, Overlook High, Penn State. Yeah, I know the area, certainly. Was through a Mars station. I think you're correct, Texan. I don't remember all the details. That was a long time ago, but I think that's what it was. Yes, sir. So where was I? I was talking about some of the things that I've been hearing and on the internet a little more. And you all know that one of my big things, and I keep saying it over and over and over again because it seems to get minimized everywhere, is the carb addiction angle to not just carnivore dieting, but all dieting, people dieting in general, and why they can't stick to it, and why 99% of them, after a year or two, have always put back on all the weight they lost. And yet it keeps getting minimized. And lately, I have been hearing more and more about carb addiction from a lot of the other influencers. I don't have enough influence myself to take credit for keeping bouncing it around out there, but I heard in the last couple of days, Shawn Baker did a couple of videos where he spent a lot of time talking about carb addiction. But even still, the other guys seem to look at it as if it only afflicts some people, not a big majority of people. And he likened it to, and I guess it's a good point, he likened it to a person that drinks in moderation and doesn't get drunk all the time, doesn't consider themselves an alcoholic. He doesn't consider them an addict. And my test for addiction is much different than that. My test for addiction is, can you stop? Period. Can you just stop when you want to? Can you just say, that's it, I'm not going to have another drink. I'm not going to smoke another cigarette. I'm not going to have another joint. I'm not going to snort another whiff of cocaine. Even though it may not be killing me, ruining my life. Can you stop? And that's my definition of an addiction. And I think that's what the problem is. And the fact that our addiction to food is not recognized by anybody as a problem. It's just not. It's not considered in the same league with other addictions. And if it was, we wouldn't see stuff like this. And if you saw my video that shopping at Sam's the other morning, and you remember this little walkthrough I did, and this is what I had to go through to get to the meat department. And all this is pallet loads and pallet loads and pallet loads of poison, of seed oils, grains, and sugar in various combinations. Aisle after aisle after aisle of this stuff. As far as the eye can see, left and right, looking down that aisle, are aisles of pallet loads of that stuff. And there's an old saying in supermarkets. They call those things impulse items. And we all know that they put the impulse items between you and whatever they figure most people are heading towards, which is why the real food, the stuff that's probably the lowest profit margin, because it's real food, it's produce, it's meat, is always at the far corners of the store. And all the crap is between you and them. And we're so addicted to this stuff that they can pretty well count on the fact that we're going to buy some of it, throw it in our carts, especially if we got our kids along with us. Our kids, those little arms are going right to left, grabbing stuff off the shelves. They know that we're a nation of addicts, and I don't hear anybody making a huge stink out of this, and that's what has to happen, unfortunately, if we're ever going to fix it. And I think a lot about this because I can't help but observe this stuff. And for all of those pallet loads of crap they got in these big box stores or supermarkets, even drugstores now. You go into a drugstore, it's supposed to be a store that's there to sell you healthy stuff. It's a pharmacy, for God's sakes. There's more cookies, cakes, candies, snacks, ice cream in that than there are drugs in the drugstore. I don't think, I keep racking my brains. Where do you even begin to fix this? Where do you even begin to try to turn it around? And I guess we're doing it the only way that we can, but we're fighting such a battle, as evidenced by that new ridiculous study that's all over YouTube now, that red meat increases the risk of diabetes. I know you've heard that before because everybody has done a video commenting on that study out of Harvard University. We must be morons. Everybody thinks that we believe that stuff, and turns out we're a tiny little, almost meaningless minority of people that subscribe to reality in a world that's completely lost its mind. Anybody's got any ideas about where we go to start to fix this, let me know. I'll make a video. I'll make you a star. We can't fix it from the top down. We can't march into the government and say, change the food, turn the food pyramid upside down. We can't do that. They're not listening. They're too locked up. They're too in bed with these people. There's too much money and business and the economy and everything else riding on the fact that this paradigm doesn't change. I've often said that this country would starve to death. There's just not enough food to feed everybody real food. Unfortunately, we have to rely on that junk stuff. Otherwise, we wouldn't eat. Nobody's making enough real food. There aren't enough cows. There aren't enough animals being raised. If anything, they keep wanting to reduce the amount of that. It's not profitable enough. So I don't know what to do. So the only thing I guess that we can do in the face of all of this lunacy, and it is lunacy, I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's absolute lunacy. We just have to try to take care of ourselves and make sure that we have a source of some real food for us. You know, we want to spread the word to everybody, and sometimes I think that, I don't know if that's such a good idea or not, because not until the food supply increases, it's hard enough. I got to race down the aisles at Sam's Club to try to get to the markdown meat before all the other old people. Good news is I'm faster than most of them. Just eat meat more for us. Yeah, I guess that's the good news. The good news is when I go to Sam's Club early in the morning, there's a ton of meat and nobody else, just about me. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat here. I see that you can't eat just one. Yeah, I'll never forget that commercial. That commercial was a big middle finger to all of us. When they say to you, I'll bet you can't eat just one, they're saying to you, we've addicted you and you don't even know it. They know it. Anybody who thinks that the medical community, that the big food companies, that the doctors, that they don't know what they're doing, is living in a fantasy land. They know exactly what they're doing. They hired the best and most talented biochemists to figure out more and more ways to make this stuff more and more irresistible to us. They come out, how many breakfast cereals do you really need? We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different breakfast cereals right now, each one trying a little harder to find some hook or some niche so that children can't live without it. This stuff is going on right in front of everybody's faces, and we're paying the price for it in our health. And I just don't see anything in the public discourse talking about how do we fix it? How do we fix it? I don't know. It's very frustrating to me. And the more you know, the more frustrating it is, and the more you want to go out there and shout about it. But that's the problem. And I talked about that. I have a video that's going to come out tomorrow, another one of my little cooking breakfast and talking videos. And it's a rehash of the same message, but with a little different spin on it that maybe you'll make it a little more understandable. And I hope it gets through to you, or I hope you enjoy it. I think I went over this last week, but let me get my business out of the way here. Number one, my doctor's disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I don't play one on TV or YouTube. The only information that comes out of my mouth is from my own personal observation and my opinion. I can't give you medical advice, even if I know what that advice would be. I don't want to be liable for it, and I also don't want to personally be responsible for you doing something and then didn't work or something like that. So it's probably a good reason why I'm not a doctor. So I have that disclaimer there. I do have a website, and it's oldguycarnivore.com. And on the website, this is the home page. I do have a section here thanking my channel members, and here's a list of, after 2 weeks, I think I have 18 channel members, people that support my efforts, throw me a couple bucks a month. Greatly appreciated, greatly appreciated. And this will be updated every day or two. I'll update this list, and thank you for those that have joined. To become a channel member, you'll go to the website. There'll be a button on there that says join. This page will come up and tell you how to do it. You just click the join button, and you can help this channel, help support me in my efforts, cover some of the costs of it. And we're going to start doing live streams for the members. This has got nothing to do with everybody. There's no obligation to do this. This is purely if you want to. Nobody will think less of you if you don't. If you're struggling and can't afford it, absolutely don't. I'm not looking to hurt anybody. It's like $3.99 a month, and you can cancel it anytime you want. But if you're a member, you'll be able to view these member live streams. I'm going to have them once a week, tentatively, and unless something comes up, I'm going to do the first one this Thursday evening at 7 o'clock. It's going to be a private live stream. It will not be put out to the public. The only people that will get a notification or be able to log into it are people that are supporters, are channel members. And in the chat, that thing behind me right there, at the top of the chat, there will be a link. And what I want is I want you to click on that link, and you'll show up down here on my screen in a window, and I'll be able to bring you in, and you'll be sitting in a window right next to me, and we'll be talking to each other. And at the present time, I can handle 6 people at one time. And next week, when I upgrade my subscription to StreamYard for $20-something a month, is what it costs, I'll be able to handle up to 10 people. And we're going to have a round table once a week on Thursday for channel members. And if we get more people than I have room for, we'll just rotate in and out. You'll all be in the green room. And we'll be able to talk. I'll be able to get to know you. You'll be able to get to know me. We can talk about some issues or questions that you have face to face. I am so looking forward to doing that with some of you guys. I feel like I know so many of you already from the comments and just trying to answer all the comments, but I'm looking forward to it. So Thursday at 7, keep an eye out. I don't have your email addresses. I can't email you anything, but I can do a community post on YouTube, and you can just go into your recommended feed, and if you're a channel member, you should see the live stream. Just click on it. And if 7 o'clock comes and you want to join us, but you can't find the live stream, should show up on my feed. Just shoot me a quick email at oldguyinadrone@gmail.com and ask for the link, and I'll email it back to you. This is something that I've been wanting to do. Dawn became a member. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hope to see you on Thursday. That'd be great. So I'm looking forward to that. God knows what's going to happen. It may be a disaster, the first one. It may be all screwed up technically, but you got to start somewhere. We have to start it somewhere. And I want to make it a weekly thing. And I figure that it'll just go as long as it goes. And if nobody shows up, it won't go at all. And I just think it's going to be nice. I know Ken Berry does that with his top level supporters that pay a lot of money. They get to be on Zoom calls with him. But I'm not looking for top level supporters. I'm looking just for people who throw a couple bucks a month to me to help support this little effort I'm doing here. And I want to give you something. I don't know how valuable time with me is. Maybe I'm being egotistical about this, but I'm looking forward to getting to not only see you, but talk to you individually and personally. Newsflash, y'all. Holy cow, say that 10 times fast. Carlos, stop it, please. Remind me to strangle him through the screen when he gets here. Richard Richard Lees, thank you. You got to start somewhere. Yeah. This thing's only been going on for about, not quite 3 months now. So considering I'm pushing 15,000 subscribers already, it has gone well beyond what I ever thought it would. Anyway, that's the channel thing. Hope you all consider joining. And for those of you that are already members, I hope you get the word of this. I'm going to put out a couple of posts between now and then. Community on the community tab, those things show up, letting people know. Thursday at 7 o'clock, look for it. If you can't find it, shoot me an email, and I'll get you the link where you can check into it. So thank you. We've had 2 tonight. We have Dawn has joined, and Newsflash y'all became a member. Thank you so much. All right. Another thing on the website while I'm here, let me go back to that. We have the t-shirt store is on the website, and we have a new shirt now that has the food pyramid on it. It says My Carnivore Food Pyramid. And we got them in hoodies and sweatshirts and t-shirts, and they're in 4 or 5 different colors. It's pretty neat. We got 3 different designs. One of them says take the rest of the day off and eat meat. One of them says Old Guy Carnivore with my face, with the old guy face in the middle. And that looks like this when you get to it. There's the ones with the food pyramid. There's the ones that have the old Guy Carnivore. There's the ones with the take the rest of the day off. And if you want to see what they are, you might just click on the sweatshirt, and then you can see how they look in the different colors. And the quality of these things is really good. I'm very pleased with them. So we do have some pictures of some of our people out there wearing them already. And anybody that gets one of these, send me a picture. Email it to my Gmail account, Old Guy Carnivore Gmail, and I'll put you in this little slideshow here so you can see. You'll have your picture if you want it up there, sporting, telling the world that you eat meat. The next design that I come up with is going to be something that plays on the no plants theme or something like that. But right now, I'm just going to leave these 3 different designs up there and see what happens. Also on this website, and I'll stop this commercial, links to stuff I use every day. This started out because everybody used to ask me in the chat, where do I get that frying pan you use? Where do I get that thermometer that you use? Where do I get this? So what I did was I have an affiliate account with Amazon. They pay me a ridiculously small commission if somebody buys one of these products because they came from a link that came from my website. And I put these things up there, and I even took the time to make it easy to find by putting the pictures of what it is up there. And these are my electrolytes. These are some different food and pantry, ghee and pork rind crumbs, different salts that I use in seasoning, the different types of cooking appliances I use, from the vacuum sealer to sous vide. Here's that new frying pan, the Mueller 12-inch German stone that turns out is really made in China. And we'll talk about that. But I'll be damned if you could find that out by looking at the Amazon listing or the frying pan itself. Evidently, Mueller in Austria, the company that makes these things, and they bill them as German stone. That's the actual way it's described, German stone. They basically farm out the manufacturing to a plant in China. So even though it's sold out of Europe and it's billed as a Austrian German company, and the quality of the thing is as good as any cooking utensil I've ever seen, and it only costs $35. I mean, it's fabulous. I did have somebody in one of the comments on this frying pan say that I read somewhere that was made in China, and I couldn't believe it. So I started searching, and I started looking, and I finally found the box that it came in, and found the fine print down here on the bottom of the box, right here. And it says, made in China, under license from Mueller, Austria. And then it has the address of Mueller in Austria. So that's the only hint. I was a little embarrassed because I kept telling people, no, it's not made in China. No, it's not made in China. But that just reinforces my theory that you can't trust anything anybody says anywhere in the world on any subject, period, anymore. Because there's always something that they're not telling you. Am I not happy with this? I'm thrilled with it. This thing is, I don't know if you can see how beautifully this thing is built with the stainless steel handle that is insulated by this little thing here where it won't get hot. I feel like a home shopping network here. But if you look down there on the bottom of the pan, you can see, I think you maybe be able to see it with the light. Anyway, it says Mueller, yeah, right there it says Mueller, Austria on it. I've paid $150 for cookware in my time for a frying pan that wasn't built as well as this. And it is a ceramic coating. It is not one of these forever chemical coatings. It is perfectly safe, and it holds up. And the only thing it'll do if you cook a lot of meat and everything, and it tends to discolor a little bit, but that's because it's a white coating inside. And about every year and a half or so, I get a new one. And this is probably better built than the Ozeri one that I had before. It almost looks like it's made in the same factory, though. The bottom of it is identical, the cladding on the bottom. So it's a good pan and worth 35 bucks, even if it subcontracted the Chinese to make them. I can't complain because it's sad. I'm sad to say that the stuff they make in China, in so many cases, is better than the stuff that we make here. When I think about all the stuff, every drone that I have that I fly comes from China. Cell phones, they're the best. They're electric cars. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the electric cars that are built in China. They're unbelievable. We are so far behind them. So quality-wise, it's not an issue. Politics-wise, it's an issue for me because it's a communist country. But like so many other things in this world, we just can't change it. We can't change it. So we have to just figure out, live with it the best you can. You can't be a perfectionist. Anyway, back to this. This is all the other stuff. There's links to the t-shirts in there. I even put, a lot of people, believe it or not, asked me about the cameras that I use to film my videos. I put those in there, and that exercise thing that I have. So that, another thing on the website that's really handy to look at, and I don't know how many people have ever found it, there's a link called Carnivore Basics. And I started to write a book. This is the first 5 pages of the book I started to write. And it's basically an introduction to what is carnivore and a quick start guide, how to get started on carnivore, and some of what I think are the basics of doing this. And then a little commentary on how screwed up the world is and why it's not your fault that you've been failing all these years. The whole system is set up against you. So that's something you might want to read if you're interested, and that's on oldguycarnivore.com. Okay, enough of that. So let's see, what did we try to sell you here? We wanted to sell you t-shirts and kitchen equipment, and pretty good. I'm gonna make a logo that says like the Old Guy Shopping Network or something, put it up in the corner of the screen. Every little bit helps. Thank you so much. Auction off the old one, Mitch. Newsflash, y'all. All their engineers were educated in the USA, absolutely, and all of the engineering that they use was stolen from the USA. No, that's unkind. They're really a very industrious people. You don't find 3 cars in every garage either in China. Perfection is overrated. Boy, I'll say. Even on our diet, perfection is overrated. You know, think about it. I get comments that say things like, did you know that those paper towels that you put your bacon on are bleached with chlorine, so you're eating chlorine when you lay your bacon down on the paper towels? I don't care. I mean, why don't we just wrap ourselves up in a hazmat suit inside of a bubble, you know, with these big plastic balls and just, you know. And I think that's the problem. That's the cause of the, I keep getting, do you know how many comments I get from people that tell me about cross-contamination? You touched the chicken, the raw chicken, then you touched this other thing, and then you touched the other thing. Nobody can live like that. I want to put rants. I want to rant right back in the comments, but I don't dare. I know a lot of people are really just trying to be helpful to me, and they're just telling me what they were taught and what they think. I have an immune system. I do not have a drop of hand sanitizer, Lysol disinfectant. I don't use any soap when I shower. I use water. I stopped using chemicals for everything. It's amazing how much better your life is. Now, when I was a kid, our parents used to send us out to play in the dirt. We would eat dirt, for God's sakes. You know, we would eat dirt. We had immune systems. And I've always been like that all my life. I don't think about germs. You can't think about germs. If anybody realistically thought about how many bacteria are all over every square inch of your body at all times, you'd get the squirmies. I mean, trillions of bacteria inhabit our bodies and are outside of our bodies. They're on our eyeballs, they're on our hair, they're everywhere. They're inside, they line the insides of our mouth, and they do jobs, chemical things that enable us to live and be healthy. Without those bacteria, we would not exist. They are part of a symbiotic relationship. We have them inside of our gut. We have them inside of our stomach. We have them everywhere. Most of them are beneficial bacteria. Some of them aren't. Some of them are bad bacteria. Those are the ones that make us sick. But if we have a good immune system, it takes care of itself. It's all too complicated for us to try to micromanage. Okay, I'm going to shoot this bad bacteria, but no, reminds me of those guys that practice in the range where, you know, the targets pop up and some of them are good and some of them are bad, and they have to be quick, but they have to make sure they don't shoot the good people. You can't do that. We cannot micromanage our physiology. That's what our subconscious, that's what our animal brains do. A million times every second of every day, they manage everything for us. And our immune system, if you allow it to be exposed to the bad bacteria so that it can learn what they are and recognize them, so that next time it sees them, it can take them out. And this is the basis of why we get injections, to stimulate our immunity. And that isn't just for bacteria, that also applies to viruses too. Our immune system can learn to identify a virus from an inoculation and create antibodies for it. And all that stuff's going on in us all the time. And this business about these helicopter moms that follow their kids around with handy wipes and hand sanitizer and constantly wiping the counters and cleaning everything and scrubbing the kids down with disinfectant soap and everything to kill all that. They kill the good bacteria, and the kids get sick because you need the good bacteria. And where do we get this idea from? Are the friendly folks at the World Health Organization and all of these companies. These good-hearted companies that are so altruistic, and they're only in business to help us and make our lives better. Companies like Procter and Gamble and all the drug companies that just want to help us. You know, God, they're such good people. You know, we should give them Nobel Prize. Oh, wait, we do give them Nobel Prizes. So at any rate, don't worry about it. If you happen to touch a piece of raw chicken, it's okay. If your body's working right, when anything you put into your mouth hits that pH 2 or less stomach acid of yours, that's going to kill off everything. Now, if your physiology isn't working right, maybe you will get sick from it. And amazingly enough, with all of the cross-contamination that I do, and of the fact that I don't use disinfecting soaps, and I don't use mouthwash, I don't use toothpaste. I brush my teeth with baking soda. Okay? Just plain baking soda. I don't use deodorant. I don't put any chemicals. The only other person I know that's even ever talked about this is Ken Berry. They make their soaps out of tallow. And he's right. These things, end up killing bacteria that we have on our skin that are there for a reason, and we've, over the eons, developed a symbiotic relationship with them. We give them a place to live, they earn their keep. So I don't want to kill them. When a doctor tries to prescribe an antibiotic to me for something, I better be on my deathbed before I'm going to take it. Because the harm that those things do in killing off virtually every bacteria they come in contact with to try to get the bad ones is like what chemotherapy does for cancer. It's not a good thing. Okay, so I'm looking at the chat. Paper towels are a huge waste of money. Yeah, all that stuff's a waste of money. And interestingly enough, on carnivore, you don't need deodorant. Now, that's been one of the biggest surprises in the world. Is you could go 2 weeks without a shower and nobody will even notice, because, I mean, there are certain little areas in your body you should wash, but as far as getting into a hot shower and scrubbing every inch of your body and your hair with some kind of disinfecting soap is not necessary, not necessary at all. And you won't have on carnivore the bacteria that create the body odor. So it is what it is. I don't know where I started this thing. If you know me by now, you know I start going off on a tangent, and then that tangent goes off to another tangent, and I could end up talking for days and forget where I started. Okay, that's enough. That's enough of that. I see a lot of people agree with me as far as the baking soda and that kind of stuff goes. Good deal. Well, let me bring Carlos in here, and if you guys, there's a question, cool. I was going to say, if you have any questions, type question in all capitals, and let me see if he's there. There he is. Hey, Carlos.
Good evening.
Now you're a little loud.
Can't win with you.
No, now it's way too loud.
All right,
Just so you know what I mean by that is, for 5 minutes before the stream starts, Carlos and I work very hard to try to get all the microphone levels right. And
we do.
All right.
Now, or I'll speak quieter.
That's okay. That's good.
The rain
so
is
we have
pain,
a question. Yeah,
in the plane. Is that good? Better?
That's good.
Okay.
Question from Victory. I'm 23. Oh, Victory. Nobody's 23. My newest pair of shoes is older than that. I'm 23, 110 days carnivore. 2 weeks ago, I developed You developed eye floaters? My eye doctor said there is nothing to cure it, but they are uncomfortable. Will carnivore diet cure me? Did you, 2 weeks ago, you developed the eye floaters from being off after you started carnivore? There's absolutely nothing in eating meat that in any way should cause eye floaters. Now, I've had them all my life, and I did notice when I went carnivore, most of them went away. I still have an occasional one, but it did cure most of them. But I'm not enough of an eye doctor to know the name of that vitreous lining that you have. But what happens is a little piece of that breaks off, and it just floats around inside your eye. And I had an ophthalmologist tell me the whole story a number of years ago about what they are, and I said, well, can't you do anything? Don't you have like a super laser that you can shoot through my eye and just zap them like a video game? And he said, no, there's nothing you can do about them. But I have heard from many other carnivores that they do get better, and mine have gotten noticeably better. I hardly notice them at all. The one thing about them, though, is after a while you just stop paying attention to them and you don't notice them unless you're looking for them.
2 other questions.
Yes.
The one I think you can answer easily is, how long have you been carnivore? And the second one is, why are you charging $3.99 when the other channels are $2.99?
Okay.
I said inflation, but I was just being silly.
No, that's probably a good question.
Yeah.
The other channels all have multiple levels, if you've noticed that. they have maybe $2.99 and then 5 and then 10 and then 20 and then 50 and then 100 and then 150, some of them. And they give you more and more and more perks for each of these different levels. That works great if you're a doctor, because there are some people that figure if they can get actually personal access to somebody like Ken Berry and know that they can get 15 minutes of his time one-on-one, either on the phone, compared to what going to a regular doctor would cost who isn't carnivore, that's a bargain to spend $150, $200 a month for that kind of access to a doctor. Even though the doctor in that setting cannot prescribe, he cannot even claim he's giving you medical advice. But, you know, all the people say, yeah, it's not medical advice. I understand, doc, but $2.99 is basically the lowest, I think, that YouTube allows you to offer on these things. And what they start out with when you go to set up this private community, they want you to do the multi-level stuff, because Google earns 30% of that money. They get 30%. Which basically means if somebody is in for $3 a month, Google gets $1 of it. So the poor creator that does all the work, he gets $2. So I originally thought that I would, instead of doing the $2.99, I was going to do $3.99 and like $8.90 and $9. And $9 is going to be the big deal. And I was going to have the live streams with the personal access so we could become friends and get to know each other. And I could try to help you one-on-one as best I could, not being a doctor. And I put it out there 2 weeks ago for the first time. Kind of halfway thought it out, but I figured, oh, let's just see what happens. And 6 people joined at the $3.99 level, and nobody wanted the top level, which I felt uncomfortable about anyway. I don't want to be selling my time. If I want to sell my time, I can give you the names of any number of people that are wanting to buy it right now, because I'm fairly expert at some pretty high level website, especially database back-end design. And I already work for some big utility companies designing and maintaining their websites on a part-time basis, working when I want to. And I get paid when I work. A pretty good chunk of money for that. A hell of a lot more than $4. I don't want to work. I'm retired, basically. I want to do this YouTube stuff. This has brought me back to life. I meant everything I said about having been out of it pretty much for 10 years. Just sitting around waiting to die. This has given me purpose, and I truly enjoy it. I do need to make a little money, though. And I spend so much time at this, I don't have the time to do that other stuff, and nor do I want to. I don't enjoy doing that web programming. I don't enjoy sitting around in front of a computer going blind, writing code that accesses SQL databases and making the, you know, so people can search for things on websites. To show you the website, that website that I have, that I put together for myself, I put that together in 45 minutes. It took me 45 minutes to design that whole thing. I know what I'm doing with that stuff. But I want to do this. So I know how much money I need to make every month just to make ends meet and make sure I have a little in case something bad happens. I don't need money. I have everything I need. I don't want anything anymore. I've had everything in my life. I've had everything everybody else dreams of. I've already been there. I've
been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
I have. I've had yachts. I've had my own twin-engine airplanes. I've had Rolls Royces and Mercedes Benzes and huge mansion-like houses. And I have a motorcycle. I never ride it. I have a big 109 cubic inch Suzuki sitting out in the driveway. I'm afraid to ride it because of these idiot kids in cars with cell phones. You know, I don't want to get beat up and have my body broken up to bits. But I've always had a motorcycle all my life. I can't sell the stupid thing. It's not worth that much. It's a Suzuki. It's a 2008, so it's 15 years old. Maybe, you know, it's worth $3,000-4,000, and for that I'll keep it. Just because I enjoy. I just know I enjoy having it. You know what I mean? Here,
like your hobby helicopters and planes.
Yeah, it's like the 20 friggin' drones I got sitting in my sitting in the other room here. This is
While you're looking, can I ask the question?
there.
That's Oh, go ahead.
That's my motorcycle that I have, and it's still sitting outside. I every couple weeks I go out there and I uncover it and I dust it off and start it up. Maybe spin it around the block, but I'm just almost every time I go out and ride it somewhere, I get very nervous because nobody's paying attention when they drive anymore. Anyway,
Question.
yeah, I'm not done answering the other question about the 299. Let me finish
Oh,
with that one.
there's more,
'Cause
okay.
again, I have the long answer to the short question.
problem.
Always have the long answer to the short question. I had the 399 as the base level because we set that. YouTube doesn't set that. That's up to us. We can ask any amount of money we want, considering what we think it's worth for somebody and what we're willing to offer them. I'm not really selling anything to be a member of this channel. I basically came on and says, this cost me money to do this, and I'm a retired guy, and Social Security is nothing. And if you all go back and watch my very first live stream that I did, and I know a lot of people that watch now weren't around back then because I didn't have that many subscribers back then. But the second half of that first live stream, which was about 2 months ago, somebody asked me the question, Mitch, what did you do for a living? Remember that, Carlos?
Mm-hmm. Many different.
And I went off on the story of my life. And it took me a half an hour. And to summarize it in a few seconds, I have been rich and broke almost as many times as I have been fat and skinny. I don't know if the two are correlated or not. I have built more businesses, successful businesses in my life, from being a general contractor building $1 million homes back in the 80s and then going broke when the economy went to shit in the end of the 1980s and all the savings and loans went broken. Nobody could sell all these big spec houses we built. Then I went into the computer business and built one of the most successful private computer companies in Central Florida. We were outfitting all the school districts with all the network infrastructure and stuff back at the heyday of the internet growth. And then Hewlett Packard, who was my partner, decided they didn't need me anymore, stole my entire business from me. In 6 months, I went from fabulously successful business to nothing. And then I went in the restaurant business and got caught up in the 2008 recession, and everything went broke again. And that's when I decided I'm going to kill myself. And I suffered through that depression, and it took me 10 years to recover. And I just recently got over that and got my life back and discovered this carnivore thing and then started the YouTube thing. So when I said on that video, my first message to my subs that almost brought me to tears saying it was that this whole thing I think has, given me new purpose and saved my life. I meant it. But the one thing my old life left me was without a retirement. Without a retirement. When you run businesses like I do, you're so upside down most of the time, especially in building with the banks own everything, and the overhead is crazy, and the tax burdens are crazy, and the tax obligations, Social Security matching on your employees, everything goes out. When it stops coming in, it doesn't stop going out, and that usually leaves you way behind the 8 ball, and it's where I found myself, and it's life. It happens. I'm not ashamed of it, or I wouldn't tell anybody about it. I don't think there was anything I could have done. I don't think there was anything I could have done about it, to tell you the truth.
Learning experience.
Well, it's not just a learning experience. It's like standing on the beach and there's a tsunami coming. And I don't care how good a swimmer you are, you're going to get yourself killed. It's just an overwhelming force. And when the entire economy of this country crashes and you're in front of that wave, even if you knew it was coming a week or a month or even a year ahead of time, you couldn't unwind all the stuff that you got into. It's a terrible thing. At any rate, so I thought I need to make a little money doing this YouTube thing. I don't want to charge anybody a lot, but I figured, okay, I'll charge $4, $3.99 a month if somebody wants to help support what I do. And I'm never going to get rich on it, that's for sure. I'm certainly not doing this for the money. believe it or not, I can make more in one day working on a computer at work that I don't like doing than I can make in a whole month of making a YouTube video every friggin' day and spending 12 hours or more a day just answering comments in the chats. But I love that. I just enjoy the hell out of it. And at my age, I think it's more important that I enjoy my life. I'm 76.
Speaking
Most
of
people my
answering
age are supposed to be retired by now. So I decided it's going to be $3.99 a month. YouTube gets 30% of that. I get $2.75 of it. And if I had 100 members, that would be like $275 a month. And that helps defray the costs of just what I have to pay out to do the stuff I do on this YouTube channel. Okay, the software I have to subscribe to, it's everything costs money. Plus I have to pay taxes, believe it or not. All right, what did you say, Carlos?
Question from Charlotte Rush.
Oh, wait, I had one. Excuse me. I've been doing carnivore absolutely, strictly,
Oh,
1 year and 3 months.
that's what I said, 14.
But keto, going on 15. On the 1st, it'll be 15 months.
Okay.
And it's almost I can't believe it's almost the end of October already. God.
Charlotte Rush, question. Is it common to have dry, flaky skin while adapting to carnivore? My dry eyes are better, but my skin is stubbornly dry, and I wondered if it's a vitamin I'm missing.
I couldn't tell you that. I could tell you that after I'd been on carnivore for a while, my eczema went away and other illnesses that were related to like dry skin, but my feet still get dry. I still put lotion on my feet. A lot of people say to just use tallow. Just take some butter or tallow, rub it in your skin, you know. I mean, that's what's better for an animal than an animal fat, you know.
Next question.
Anyway, how are you doing, Charlotte? Good to see you. I hope to see you this Thursday in our live stream. All right, next question.
Desanya wants to know, how often do you eat your sardines and scrambled eggs dish? I started doing this after you cooked it up and have been eating this nearly every day for lunch, and he loves it.
Oh, that's great. That's good for you. I only have that about once every 2 weeks. I stick to mostly bacon, eggs, and either burgers and steaks. And then every so often I'll make some chicken wings, or every so often I'll throw some fish in there. But
the ribs lately. Right?
The ribs, yeah. And I did find out, I did a little research on something. Because I hear people say things on other channels, and I see people say things in the comments. And I saw a comment where somebody says, you shouldn't be using bacon grease, you should be using tallow because beef is better for you. That sounds reasonable, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Turns out, folks, that one of the healthiest fats there is lard, is bacon grease. Even when you Google it, if you Google bacon grease, this is the kind of thing that I do when I get curious about something. Okay, here's what I do. I'll go over here and I'll open up a thing and I'll say, is bacon grease healthy? Bing. So a lot of that unhealthy stuff associated with bacon isn't necessarily in the bacon fat. And surprisingly, it does have some healthy qualities. Like, well, it says here canola. They always throw that in. Bacon fat is high in oleic acid, which is thought to reduce inflammation and cholesterol levels, Quinn said. Okay, that's not the answer. That here's one that says, is bacon grease healthier? And here they're talking about cholesterol. So they're still throwing all that old nonsense in there. But what is the healthiest oil to cook with? Olive oil, avocado oil? No. Butter.
How about the ghee? Butter.
No, ghee is butter.
Yeah.
Basically.
But it looks like oil once you put it in the
But
pan.
I got an answer the last time that basically bacon fat, absolutely extolled the virtues of bacon grease, talking about the fact that it's mostly monounsaturated fats, which are very, very good for you. and it actually said that it was actually edged out beef fat, tallow, as far as being healthy. The fact is that it is a healthy fat to use, and using lard or tallow, I don't think one has any real advantage over the other. And I like the flavor of bacon grease, because who doesn't like bacon? At any rate, that I thought that was very interesting. I did want to point that out. So, David Desaunier, for those of you that are interested, I talked to David for a while on the phone the other day in Louisiana, and we got along pretty good. He's a nice guy, retired military guy, and his last name is Saunier, French spelling, with an I-E-R at the end, and his first initial is D. So D. Saunier is kind of the way his name would be spelled phonetically, but not the real spelling. So it's D. Saunier is how you say that. And we had a really nice chat. Nice guy, and we're gonna get him on. We're gonna get him on the channel and do an interview. He's already been on the Carnivore Soldier on Larry's channel and done an interview. So we're gonna do that one of these days. So how you all are, David?
And I was thinking about your recipes. You could, because I know you bought the pork rinds breadcrumbs. Why don't you make some chicken cutlets with pork rinds?
You could do that.
Or beef ribs.
Although I don't go out. I eat chicken wings and thighs. I certainly don't go out of my way to eat white meat chicken. No. If I'm going to be eating protein, I'm going to try to eat protein that's got a little denser nutrient pack than white meat chicken. I think that's probably one of the least nutritious. No, I don't need. See, that's another thing I keep harping on besides addiction, is the need for variety.
Well, not that you need, but for the sake of the channel. I mean,
no, but that's just it. It's not that you need
beef ribs
variety, or you got to have variety. Whenever you start thinking like that, you're starting to equate food with excitement. And you're starting, instead of just looking at food for its basic purpose, that is to get, nutrition.
To live, don't live to eat.
Yeah, don't live to eat. And it's that quest for more fabulous food, fancier food, tastier food that's gotten us in trouble in the first place. Because it leaves us open to anybody that wants to, any snake oil salesman that wants to let us think that they've got the answer to our dreams. I found that the natural urge, after your physiology and chemistry starts changing, your natural urge is to settle back into the normal state of what a living animal does, and that is there are basically a very small assortment of foods that are actually considered food, and for humans it's mostly beef or other ruminant animals, and fish. Because that's what we came up on. But all of this other stuff we introduce is so much of this stuff's not even food. Sugar is not food. It has no nutrition. It has some energy, but not nutrition. Doesn't have any building blocks in it. No amino acids. None of the stuff that our body needs to manufacture tissue, meat, muscle, and bone. Okay, where were we?
Talking about food. Well, the other thing I was a little disappointed with your review of the air fry was you didn't show how easy it was to clean.
Well,
I missed that part.
Yeah, I didn't show it. Basically, you got a grate, and you got a tray under the grate where the oil. So in that respect, it's exactly the same as a basket type air fryer, except that pan is shallow, and the grate doesn't have a handle on it, and a basket and all the louvers in the side and all the other stuff that make it harder to clean. This thing, I just put a little soapy water in the sink, throw them in the sink, let them soak for half an hour, and then just take a sponge.
It's the same thing with the Ninja Foodie, pretty much.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you put the meat on the tray and then put it into the big basket. You ever think of putting the meat on the tray and then throwing that into the basket? After the preheat.
You don't use a basket. You have a grill or a basket. The only thing you're going to
That's
put
what
in
I'm
a
saying.
basket,
And then underneath is the catch, the oil
the
catcher
catch
or
tray.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but what I do is I have my stuff on the what you call the tray or the basket, and then I put that into the catch.
Well,
I don't
the whole
necessarily.
purpose of preheating an air fryer is to heat up the grill, so when you throw the meat on it, you get grill marks. That wouldn't work if you put it in after it was preheated.
Well, no,
So
the grill is different. Yeah,
yeah,
that
I
that.
haven't used the basket in mine yet. I
Okay,
doubt I ever will. I
really?
put everything on the grill, even the chicken wings.
Okay,
Much easier to clean.
I
Anyway,
understand.
it's a like everything else. There's a million other air fryers out there, and everybody's got their favorites. And some of them cost $350. Some of them cost 120, 30, $40. This one is down at the lower price range. It
Does
it
it
does a good
dehydrate?
job. It does a good job. I've been very happy with everything so far. It doesn't seem to get too dirty up in the lid. Seems to be pretty easy to clean. It's not going to change my life, that's for sure.
I like the
But
Ninja Foodie. I mean, that was just a blessing in disguise for me because, I was married for the longest, and I had
yeah, you
somebody
don't know how to
cooking
cook,
for
so
me.
they're great for that.
So it was the best.
Wow, we got any more questions in here?
No more comments than anything, but no questions that I saw.
Shot pork from your diet, see what happens. Yeah, I don't eat a lot of pork, but I do like those ribs.
Mm.
And I keep settling on what's the best way to cook them. Charlotte has a question here. Do you think about grass-fed versus grain-fed? I buy grass-fed to support the local rancher, but I really can't afford the ribeye prices. Yeah, I don't blame you. And I have, I don't have access to grass-fed beef. I don't have a local rancher. I wish I did.
Would have to order
I've
it, right?
I've looked for, yeah, but I don't want to buy from one of these mail order places. If I The whole purpose for me of dealing with a local rancher would be to walk in and tell them how I want the thing butchered. Buy half a cow, tell them exactly how I want it butchered. But they tell me that the way that you tell if beef is grass fed is the fat is yellow and not white. So if you see a steak and it's got white fat, it's not grass fed. Now all There's another misconception is the difference between what they mean by fed or finished. All beef is grass fed. All cows graze until the last month or two of their life. That's when they get fattened up by grains. And why human beings don't think that they won't get fattened up by eating grain when the cattle industry purposely feeds grain to cows for the sole purpose of fattening them up and marbling the beef, which is basically the way we like it. That dichotomy, I don't understand. I They sell people the healthy whole grains as being healthy and everything, and that they're not going to make you fat, and they feed that same crap to the animals and it makes them fat. And they think, well, we're not like the animals. Well, yes, we are. And we get fat from eating complex carbohydrates like grains and the stuff made out of grains. And the finer they grind these grains, and the more powdery it is in the flour, the more fattening, and the faster they get absorbed into our bloodstream, and the higher our sugar shoots up, and the more insulin gets dumped, and that creates the metabolic syndrome that makes us all sick and fat. So the question is, do I think that the grass-fed, grass-finished beef is worth the difference? Ken Berry, who's I would say is an authority on this, being a farmer himself or a rancher, raising sheep and goats and chickens and things, he says about 5% difference. Shawn Baker, who's certainly an authority on meat, he says about the same thing. Maybe 5% more nutrients in a grass-finished cow, but you give up something for that. It's a different flavor. I've probably eaten it, but I wasn't aware that I was eating it. But the people who eat a lot of it say it's a slightly different flavor, and the people who like the flavor of the grain finished cattle better. And by the time it gets to your table, it's not grain anymore. You're not eating grain because the cow, the same way that we do, has insulin. The insulin turns that sugar into triglycerides, which are fat. And that fat gets deposited intermuscularly, kind of like when we get a fatty liver. And even humans get intramuscular fat from eating too much of that fructose and other sugars and starches. And it makes meat tasty and juicy, but if that animal were to live on, it would get sick. And basically all of these cows would become diabetics. But I am not crazy about the factory farming method of cows, and I don't think it's the kindest thing for the animal, but I do think that many of them do a pretty good job. And some of these animals, you almost have to envy the life that they have. They're treated like, a lot of them are treated like kings until the last 3 seconds of their life, and they don't know it anyway. So a lot of our lives end that way too. It's just the way of the world. It's the way it's always been. There's a thing called a food chain, and that's where it all came from. The food chain starts with algae in the ocean, and something eats the algae, and then something eats that, and something eats that, and something eats that, and then we're supposedly at the top of this food chain. But are we really? Are we really at the top of the food chain? Ask that to the next bear you run into at Yosemite, who's looking to eat you. Ask him who he thinks the top of the food chain is. We're all just meat. And another thing that I heard once that makes you think is that we're all destined to become food for something else sooner or later. I mean, all of us.
Wormwood.
We're going to be food for for something at some point in our life or after our life. And that's the way that's the way life works. Life is never meant to go on forever or be permanent. It goes on in generations after generations, and we're just part of that. So,
you have 2 questions out there.
Okay.
Where's the one by Desanya and his blood? Or
You can call him David. Question: what do you think of my lipid report? David sent me a copy of his lipid report. He basically went and got a particle analysis where they break down the results into patterns, where you're a pattern A, pattern B. And what that means is not just the total weight of your LDL cholesterol in milligrams per deciliter, but the actual particle count and the size of the particles. Because if you're a metabolically healthy human being, you have healthy LDL lipoproteins. They're what they call buoyant, fluffy and buoyant and big. And they don't stick to, like they say, the LDL sticks to your cell walls and clogs your arteries. That could be there's nothing that could be further from the truth than that. That was just some stupid guess from a guy named Ansel Keys way back in the 50s, who said that's what causes heart disease, is if you have a lot of cholesterol, it clogs up your artery. Well, it is so much more complicated than that. Turns out that this LDL lipoprotein is part of the transport system that carries fats to every cell in our body, and these fats are necessary for life because along with these fats come all the fat-soluble vitamins that need to be carried in the lipoproteins as well. So And if you're a fat burner, like most of us carnivores are, and your body's using fat for energy like it was meant to, then that fat has to be transported to every cell to be used as fuel for cellular respiration, which is how you live. You know, the food that you eat has to be transported in some manner after it's digested to every cell in your body. The oxygen that you breathe is transported to every cell in your body by your red blood cells, by your hemoglobin. And the fat has to be transported, or sugar or glucose has to be transported to every cell. Now, glucose is transported to every cell in the bloodstream, but fat is not water soluble and blood is aqueous. So we have a system of delivery vehicles which are able to be carried in the blood, and these carry all of the triglycerides, the cholesterol, the fat-soluble vitamins, and anything else that's based on fat that needs to get to the individual cell, because that's what our body is. Our body is a collection of independent little machines called cells that go about their own business in a collective of trillions of cells, but only communicating with other cells to know what to do. And that's where hormones come in and nerves come in. But as far as the machinery of the cell goes, it's every man for himself. Each cell is an independent living thing. It started out that way as a bacteria way back when there were no multi-celled organisms. But every bacteria is a single-cell organism that is capable of sustaining life on its own as long as it can breathe, and it gets water, and it gets food to convert to energy. So fat or sugar can be converted to energy, and every single cell of our body is fed these raw materials. The oxygen comes from the blood. The sugar, glucose, if we're burning sugar, comes from the bloodstream. The fats that we're burning, if we're a fat-adapted person, are delivered in lipoproteins, and they all go into the cell, and they go through a bunch of cycles. And I don't know if these names mean anything to you. If you've ever heard of the glucolysis, lipolysis, the Krebs cycle, the electron transport chain, there's a whole cascade of chemical reactions that happen that enable us to live. And at the very end of this, in each cell, with hundreds of mitochondria doing this, in each cell, this stuff is delivered just like to a little factory, and it goes through the machinery, and all the conversions happen. You end up with something they call ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, which is kind of the currency, the energy currency that the body uses. And there's waste from that. And the waste from, at the very end of the electron transport chain, you end up with CO2 and water. So our body takes all this other stuff, converts it to energy, and the byproduct is CO2 and water. The CO2 is what we breathe out. We breathe in the oxygen, all this stuff happens, we breathe out the CO2. We create excess water, we go to the bathroom and get rid of it. Okay? That's what our kidneys are for. And it happens in trillions of cells in our body, every minute of every day. It's miraculous machinery, but it needs to get the energy to it. And if the energy is fat, that's what these lipoproteins are. And you better hope you have them. And you better hope they're full of cholesterol too, because cholesterol is one of the most important molecules in the body, because it's one of the building materials of all of our cell walls, of the myelin sheaths that insulate the nerves in our brain. It is the precursor and basis for all of our sex hormones. In other words, every molecule of testosterone or estrogen is built on a base of cholesterol. All of these different molecules with all these different names are still only carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, there's still basically only three elements, just arranged in different shapes and different arrangements. Cholesterol is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So is a triglyceride. Sugar is carbon, hydrogen. They're all some combination of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and then some of these other little atoms like phosphorus and some of the basic elements get thrown in to the mix. But primarily, we're made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And those atoms arranged in molecules. Some of them have 20, 30, 40 atoms of this, 50-something atoms of that. And all these, it's so fabulously complicated that you know, I sit in wonderment when I study it a lot too, because it just fascinates me. I can't believe that all this shit has gone on 1 trillion times over in every cell in my body, every second, every microsecond of every day. It's just wonderful, and it's all happening, and it's too fast and too small for us to actually observe. So we've had to find out about it some other way. So David had asked me about what I thought of his results. And what happens is, as long as your LDL, if you're fat adapted and your LDL is big and fluffy, they don't measure cholesterol, they measure LDL. And if it, you know, so it's going to have more than just cholesterol in it. It's going to have the energy that the triglycerides that you need to power your cells. So for my money, it stands to reason that your cholesterol, if you're a healthy individual and you don't have metabolic syndrome, your cholesterol, the higher the better almost. Because if it is big and fluffy, it's just bouncing around inside your arteries. It's not going to stick to anything. It's when it gets damaged and small, they call that small damaged LDL, that it gets to be a problem. And it only gets to be a problem basically where there's inflammation, because that LDL is dispatched to sites of inflammation in our artery walls by the immune system. So they're learning now that the main cause of heart disease is inflammation has to happen first. So I think, if anything, they ought to be looking at inflammation markers for primary heart disease risk and stop looking at LDL. But our whole entire country is built on that one number. Your cholesterol is too high. Your cholesterol is too high. It's a crazy thing to be doing it that way, but there's too much money and too much industry, too many statins being sold, too many doctors' practices based on that one stupid number. And the numbers that I think really matter, C-reactive protein is a test that measures your basic, inflammation. White blood cell count. There are lots of inflammation, and I would shoot to make sure those numbers are low, because that indicates that you're healthy. And if you're healthy, then your cholesterol, even if it is a risk factor, gets way down on the list behind so many other things as much more important risk factors. So measuring your cholesterol particle size and particle count is, I think, a more meaningful measurement of whether you're at risk or not. And the good news is that David's pattern A showed that the majority of his cholesterol was the healthy, big, fluffy kind. And that makes sense if you're a carnivore and you're healthy and you're not metabolically ill and you're not, your waist is less than half your height and you don't have high blood pressure and some of these other, signs of metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance. Having the big fluffy LDL is a good thing. And this is why my LDL is just under 300 and I don't care. And my doctor stays awake at night. And I gave her the study. I showed her the copy of a study that showed that in people over 60, those with the highest LDL, assuming that they had a good HDL to triglyceride ratio, which is another measure of metabolic health, the ones with the highest cholesterols lived the longest, had the lowest rates of all-cause mortality. So I'm going with that. I'm 76 now. I've already hit the now current average life expectancy for a male. So by all statistical purposes, half
You're
of
done.
the people my age are dead. Half the people that are my age
I'm sorry, that's not nice.
are, no, it's okay. Half the people my age are gone, and I can attest to that because all my friends are dead. And they were, that were my age or even some a little younger than me, but all the ones that were older than me, they all died. And a lot of them were vegans. I mean, they were followers of Joel Furman. I mean, these guys used to lecture me as they were munching on their landscaping. And I'm sitting there eating meat. They would, lecture after lecture. Meanwhile, they all got sick, died miserable deaths, and here I am on YouTube.
I think stress adds to that because that's what I attribute my mother's.
Of course, stress does. Stress is a killer. All these things are killer. But I also believe we actually need stress. Is part of life. You do need certain stress, but we are so stressed out as a society right now. Swamp Ninja's here. How you doing? Oh, he left.
No, he left. I said goodnight.
Yeah. Yeah. I try not to get stressed.
There's healthy stress and there's unnecessary stress.
Well, all you got to do is turn on the news.
I don't do it.
I waffle back and forth with that. I say to myself, I need to know what's going on in this world. I can't just bury my head in the sand.
That's how the government controls you, in my little opinion. If they didn't have news,
they do.
How would the government get anything to you? Anyway, question by Elizabeth. Go ahead.
The good news is we do have the internet, and we still have some outlets where people like Steven Crowder and Alex Jones and, but they get demonized and canceled left, right, and center, and, keep trying to put them in jail just because they disagree with them. We're becoming, I don't want to go there.
Elizabeth Bruder wants to know if she can get a link, or can you share a link to that study, the over 60 cholesterol study?
Yeah, that study was, I actually have it on my cell phone, believe it or not.
Oh, put your cell phone on the YouTube channel and link it.
It is, yeah, I have it. It was published in the British Medical Journal. Lack of an association or an inverse association between low-density lipoprotein cholesterol and mortality in the elderly. And you had David Diamond as one of and Malcolm Kendrick and some of these new warriors like Dave Feldman that were on this study. But what I want to do is
his name Eric Westman? Is that
Eric Westman? Yeah.
He was talking about that high cholesterol is not a disease.
No, of course not. It's a
natural. That's what they're constantly treating. Or that the doctors tell you lower your cholesterol, but that's not the disease. The disease is what's it called with the heart? Atherosclerosis. Right? Yeah. He says that's the problem, but not cholesterol, but that's what they treat. They try to lower your cholesterol.
Well, because they bought into Ansel Keys' diet hard hypothesis way back in the day, and they're stuck there. They can't. Not
only that, but they have lower cholesterol medicines.
They can't do anything else. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I have just emailed it to myself from my cell phone. I'm going to take this link, and I'm going to copy, and I'm going to put it right in the chat. Right here. There it is.
There you go.
Try that and see if it gets you there. Let me see what happens. Let me get there. Yeah, okay. Here it is. Here it is right here. It's this. This is the copy of the study, and you can see all the charts and graphs. And I mean, it's some serious reading, and all the references to it and everything. But that link will get you there. Now, it's going to take a little doing, and I'm going to get to it one of these days, hopefully in the not too distant future. But this website that I have, oldguycarnivore.com, I have got, and let me just show you. I'm going to just show you this here, and I hope you can see it over my shoulder. This is my email, And down here, I have all the emails that I save. See the folders? And I have one here called Diet. Okay, so I don't know. Can you read all this? See where I'm pointing with the mouse?
Yes.
I'll start reading
Most
at the
important.
top. I'll start reading. It says addiction, alcohol, anthropology, Belinda Fetke, Ben Bickman, biochemistry, carnivore,
Alphabetized. Nice.
cholesterol, statins, Dave Feldman, diet, politics, documentaries, Anthony Chaffee, Chris Kenobi, Chris Palmer, on and on. See all these people. Each one of these folders has all of these YouTube links to some of what I've considered their best videos. There are hundreds and hundreds of videos that I considered, and I've watched 10,000 videos. These are the videos that I've learned from, and these are the top minds in the keto and carnivore and research space in all of this stuff. And I've got this huge collection of links, and I'm going to have a page, and I'm going to have to put all this stuff into a database that's searchable on keywords, just like kind of like Google. And I have to write the code for that, but I will do it, and it'll be on my website, and it'll be, you know, important links or something like that. And anybody who wants will be able to go in there. And if you want to find a video on a particular disease or subject or cholesterol or something, you could type in a keyword or two, and you'll get a list of videos on YouTube that I've watched and consider to really be, out of all the ones I've watched, the best. And I've got videos on here that
I like the one with Chaffee and
yeah.
Fetke.
There's so many of them here. Just of Ken Berry, I've got probably 20 of them in here. Gary Fetke, well, I've got one here, but I've got Belinda Fetke. Chris Palmer is the guy who wrote the book called Brain Energy. Their documentaries, I've got some cool documentaries here. Great stuff if anybody's interested. So I have that resource, and I do need to get it indexed and get it on my website in some form that can be useful to people. So that's just another thing I want to do in my spare time. What else we got?
Who's this? Atlantic Adventures. What's up, Carlos Smith? This is Newfound Drone Productions. He did a name change, I remember. a fellow droney. I haven't flown this whole summer.
I haven't either. I haven't
Very
flown in a
little bit.
while.
Hey, if I come down to Florida, maybe we can fly.
Yeah, we'll go fly. I see Jennifer's here. Hey, Jennifer. I see Jennifer everywhere. She's also, I saw her over on, I was uploading one of the videos to Rumble, and I saw that there were some comments in there, and I really haven't paid much attention to them because I got enough to do without going to Rumble and try to answer comments over there. And I saw her over there too.
You know, I saw a video
she gets around
with what's his name? Ken Berry, where he says basically kind of the opposite of what you are, because you gave up on telling people, but he says keep telling people, you know, get the message out, friends, family.
Well,
and I've been talking to my youngest son, and I think he's trying to do it. Then I have this other client where we always talk about it. He was even telling me that his triglycerides were high, and the doctors were trying to get him on blood pressure medicine. He goes, I won't do it. He doesn't do it.
Well, it's all right not to do that stuff, but you do have to change your diet in order for it to,
we talk
to actually
about that all the time.
Do anything for you.
All the seed oils, I got him to get rid of that. And eat meat. But he's Asian, so I think he's into the rice, and I'm not sure if he was eating soy and stuff, but, you know.
And, you know, unfortunately today, they use this term TOFI, thin on the outside, fat on the inside, TOFI. And you see a lot of people like that, and these people are not healthy. Even though they're not obese, they are not healthy. They've got tremendous amounts of visceral fat around their organs, and they get fatty liver. And that mostly comes from fructose is the worst. but too much sugar, and the two nationalities that seem to be having the biggest explosion of this problem are the Indian people and the Asian people.
Mm.
Who knows?
What is it? Alan, why is my sugar staying high just eating beef and eggs?
How do you know your sugar's high, Alan? I mean, are you wearing a CGM?
Maybe take
You
some.
just prick your finger?
Can you measure your sugar with urine in the strips?
Well, if you start pissing sugar, you're really going down the road.
The best way to hard boil eggs.
So at any rate, Alan, there's so many answers to that question, and it all depends on the shape you're in. You can have high blood sugar. You can be extremely healthy and just eating too high a protein to fat ratio and find out your blood sugar gets jacked up. But when you say high, do you mean 90
He
as
says
a fasting glucose, or do you mean 350? I mean,
you wrote it down. I pricked my finger, and it stays around 120 to 130.
1:20? What unit of measurement is that? 120 to 130. I don't know. What are you eating? Tell me what you're eating. Are you eating pure carnivore? How long have you been doing it? Again, I'm not a doctor. Like when my blood sugar is low, I get shaky. Yeah, everybody does.
I've been trying to do more exercise.
What happens
That's
when
one thing.
this is what that blood sugar roller coaster is all about. Is the thing that gets your blood sugar low is too much insulin. Because the insulin, its job is to get the blood sugar out of the bloodstream and into the cells. And if you get too much insulin and you take too much blood sugar out of your bloodstream, then you start to get low blood sugar, then you start to get hypoglycemic, and that's when you start to get weak and shaky, and you get these terrible sugar cravings. This is why when you're a diabetic, a type 1 diabetic, they tell you to always have
OJ.
a candy bar or some quick source of sugar with you in case you overdose the insulin, because the insulin is going to take the sugar out of your bloodstream.
Alan only eats beef, butter, and eggs.
Well,
Right? Yeah.
I can only tell you from what I know, and what I know is basically your body makes glucose through gluconeogenesis. It makes it from protein, makes it from the glycerol backbone of a triglyceride molecule. You can eat too much protein and no sugar, and you could convert that excess protein into sugar, which could account for it being higher. If you're having a problem with the beta cells in your pancreas not working, which means you're trending towards a type 1 diabetes, then your blood sugar, you're going to have not enough insulin, and you might have blood sugar a little high. I would suggest, I hate to send anybody to a doctor, but even Ken Berry tells people, go see your doctor. I mean, if you have something that just doesn't seem to fit in with the reaction that everybody else has, who's doing exactly the same thing you are and is in pretty much similar shape to you, and yet your numbers or you're experiencing something different, you need to go have it checked out by a medical professional, and because they still, even if they don't agree with the diet or the nutrition part of it, they still understand the basic chemistry of diabetes, and they have ways of measuring to see how well your pancreas is putting out insulin. And that's they use a C-peptide test. And from what I understand about a C-peptide test, that works on the basis that for every molecule of insulin produced by the pancreas, one molecule of a C-peptide is also produced. And while measuring insulin in the bloodstream might get us a pretty accurate measurement, we can't easily account for what happens to every molecule of insulin, but it's much easier to measure the C-peptide. And that measurement basically says, yes, your pancreas is working, or no, it isn't. And that's how you can tell if you're a type 1 diabetic. So this needs to be checked. I mean, I would get this checked out. My last A1C was 6.5. Okay, well, 6.5 is right at borderline diabetes.
5.7, right?
Yeah. 6.5, I think, is almost type 2 diabetes. It's right in there somewhere. I would definitely see a doctor and let them at least diagnose you. How you treat it is a whole different thing. But I think I may be way off base because I don't know you and I don't know what your situation is. But I would hazard a guess that I don't know if you had been a diabetic and you cured it mostly, or how long you've been doing the beef, butter, bacon, and egg thing. But with an A1C of 6.5 and blood sugar running 120 to 130, there's something, if you're not eating sugar, that's accounting for that. Might very well be it's not enough insulin. So I would, if I were your doctor, which I'm not, because I'm not a doctor, I can't be anybody's doctor, I would definitely want to see what your fasting insulin and your C-peptide is, and try to ascertain how well your pancreas is working or not first. And then if you find out that your pancreas is making all the insulin you need, then he's going to have to try to figure out what's causing those things to happen. I wish I could help you.
I wonder how long he's been doing the.
I don't know, but it's not the kind of thing that I can do. It's not the thing that I want to do is try to diagnose. I can't. I'm not. I have. I understand the chemistry of it. I understand all the concepts, but I don't want to take the responsibility of maybe giving somebody a wrong answer and screwing them up.
You gave the right answer. Go see a doctor.
And I hate to do that to people because I know that I don't get the answers I want from my doctors. I usually give them the answers, and instead of asking them for the answers. But that's just me. And then I'm responsible only for myself and not for anybody else. I love to help people, but I know my limits. All right, how we doing?
I think that's it for the questions.
How many people we got in here? We still got 78 people. Wow. Well, I'll tell you what. I think it's an hour and 45 minutes, which is long enough. Yeah, I think that's long enough. I don't know where it was written that it's
2 hours has to be 2.
It needs to be 2 hours, but I think it was good.
I think a lot of the live streams are only an hour. Maybe an hour, and I think Chaffee goes a little long. So.
Oh, Chaffee goes 3-4 hours. He loves it. He just sits there in his little apartment and just goes. Well, let me thank everybody for coming and joining us tonight. Remind you once again that really would love you to become a channel member and help support this old guy and trying to keep doing this stuff as long as I can. And I hope I'll be doing it on my 100th birthday. I hope to still be sitting here doing a live stream and telling everybody I told you so. Wouldn't that be a great I told you so, Carlos, if I'm 110 years old doing a YouTube live stream? Question about finding the optimum fat content. That's a Atlantic Adventure After Awesome stream. Thanks Thanks, Atlantic Adventures. I appreciate that. All right, James, Moray James, a question about finding the optimum fat content. Grab a ribeye that has the optimum fat content.
How about eggs?
Let me finish. Grab a 80-20 or a 70 or a 23-30. What is it? 73-27 hamburger. Grab most food in its natural state, unless you really go for the lean cuts. If you just go for the regular cuts, will have the right amount of fat, and that is about 50-50 by weight. Now, 50% fat by grams is different than another measurement where it's by calories, because supposedly a gram of fat has 9 calories and a gram of meat has 4 calories. So when you start talking about 70-30 by calories, you're talking basically 45-50-50 by weight. So the first thing, if you're trying to buy food that has the optimum fat content, just think of 70-30 to 80-20, and that's calories, 80%. So when you see 80-20 ground beef, you've got close to the optimum amount of fat. When you get a ribeye, it has all this fat. You got to eat it. You got to cook it so you want to eat. You can't just cut off all the fat and throw it away. You're not going to get. But there is a lot of fat in the meat itself.
Actually, he said, no, I mean to adjust for constipation or loose stool.
Oh, well, basically that's just a matter of consciously eating fattier things or leaner things until everything starts coming out right in the end. But give it a few months to settle down. Took me probably 6 months on carnivore before my severely broken digestive system started to work like it was supposed to, and hadn't worked for 50 years. And another thing on carnivore that I keep telling people, we always end up with bathroom talk, is if you don't go to the bathroom for 5 days, you're not constipated. If you're just not making any waste. I had always been constipated my whole life, so I panicked. When I first started carnivore, nothing would come out. There would be nothing there. I thought it was funny because I didn't feel bloated. I didn't feel blocked up. I didn't feel any pressure or any discomfort or anything. I just didn't have anything coming out. Nothing. A week. I went like 10, 11 days one time. Nothing. Then one day, all of a sudden, I get the urge and boom, away I go. And then it's another week. And it took about 6 months for it to settle down. And everybody's different. Some people who are on carnivore they go every day. Me, it's every 4 to 6 days. And I finally stopped worrying about it.
The last half of
Yeah, more fat will cause looser stools.
How do you feel about magnesium?
Magnesium works.
Also, right?
Magnesium citrate.
Right.
Not magnesium oxide or some of these other different magnesium compounds. If you want to have a laxative effect from it, magnesium, everybody's heard of milk of magnesia, haven't you? Mm-hmm. Citrate of magnesia. These are laxatives. So they have a magnesium citrate. They come in like 350, 400 milligram capsules. You could take 1 or 2 of them before bed.
It's even a liquid, right?
You get citrate of magnesia. You get citrate of magnesia in a bottle, in a green bottle, and it tastes a little bit lemony, but 60, 70 years ago, I remember that's what my father, who was a pharmacist,
I worked in
when he ever got blocked up, citrate of magnesia, he'd say, go get me one out of the refrigerator, and I would, and solve the problem. So yeah, I take a 400 milligram capsule every day, partly because it's an electrolyte too, and I take an electrolyte mix, and that one capsule, and that's all the medication type things, and 1 drop of iodine in my coffee in the morning.
I remember selling those bottles.
That's about it.
The green bottles of citrate.
Yeah, and if you're really if you gorge yourself on fat, you'll find out the next day how well that works to clean you out, because because it does. Yeah, DS111 says they got rid of his hemorrhoids. That was, yeah, fiber. It turns out fiber is the cause of the problem, not the solution. And they're still selling you Metamucil and all that. I used to do that. God, I believed everybody. I would take that Metamucil and it would make it worse.
I sold a lot of it in the drugstore.
Terrible stuff.
I was thinking about the germs that you were talking about earlier in your stream. People, like, what do people in? I worked in a drugstore for 2 years, and I didn't get sick. And that's where everybody comes with their germs to get better. And then in hospitals, they go into hospitals to get,
Well, you got to have an immune system.
Of course.
We have that. We wouldn't be here today if we didn't have an immune system. And there are certain things that are still going to make you sick. But
germs make you strong. I try to tell people that with masks. I see them in the gym. I say, "Why are you wearing a mask?" Yeah. Oh, this and that. I said, "Germs are good for you." And ladies are young.
What makes me nuts is in the gym is these people carry around these wet wipes, and every time they use a machine,
they clean it.
They wipe it all off and they leave it dripping wet.
Oh, okay.
And I tell them it's okay. Don't clean the machine. I'm not worried. I will not get sick because you sat on that seat. Believe me, I'm not going to get sick from that machine.
The gym that I go to, they have spray bottles and paper towels that everybody goes to. They go back. Well, not everybody, but some people go back and clean their machines. And then I catch people. I said, "Who cleaned the spray bottle?" Because it's like pushing the toilet.
It's like this hand sanitizer crap. Geez. Anyway, we started that out with a cross-contamination complaint.
Is that what that was? Oh, okay. I'm just, germs are good for you. I always tell people that.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to call it a night. And if you feel like joining
next Thursday, right? Oh, this
Thursday night at 7, if you feel like joining our private group, love to see you there. If you don't, that's okay too. I love you all. You know that. Appreciate all the support, all the subscribers.
Most of the do a little short video to remind people about
most of the comments. All right, Carlos, say goodnight.
Good night, everyone. Take care, Mitch.
Okay, buddy. Talk to you soon. Bye. And I'm just going to call it here because 2 hours of this is enough, and I'm tired. And you guys have had enough of me talking anyway. So let me get some music going here. Hey, there we go. You know I'm old because I love this kind of music. Victory, thank you. David Parker, good night to you. DS111, good night to you. Moray James, thank you. Baddest Cat, good to see you. Boy, you guys stayed through the whole thing. Florida. Roughage is rough. Yes, sir. And who else we got here? Carlos, Baddest Cat. Atlantic Adventures, later. Take care. Alan Landis. Yeah, I would go get that blood work checkup. Linda McAllister, thanks for stopping by. And who else? Spinning Wheels Road Travels. Wow. I thought my name was long. Who else? Anybody else up here? Sharon Pekarski, good to see you. Thanks for staying. Thanks for all you being here. For those of you I don't see on Thursday, I will see you all next Tuesday, and you'll see me in a video tomorrow afternoon. So with that, I'm going to give you all the rest of the